Hello and welcome to Civic Leaders. I'm Bert Lowry, Market Intelligence Officer at Springbrook Software, an Excella company. In part 2 of our talk with Palo Alto's CIO Jonathan Reichental, we continue the discussion on how he arrived in the Silicon Valley and the strides he's been making in the region. Thanks again for being with us, Jonathan. With a storied career in the private sector, including time at PricewaterhouseCoopers and O'Reilly Media, how did you make the switch to local government?
It was a cold call from an executive recruiter, and I suppose they got me on a good day when I was ready to listen to the proposal. And I'm open-minded, so I said, "Tell me more." And I went down to meet the city manager of Palo Alto, and thought he was a great guy and had a great vision. And I met some other folks over the course of several weeks, and I tell people this today because it's okay. I had some other offers, and this was the more unusual one, for me, based on my background. So I thought this is too interesting not to give it a shot. It's too interesting not to be able to sort of look behind the curtain. How does local government really work? How can I be part of it, and how can I make a difference? And so it was really interesting for me to scratch that itch, I guess you could say.
Palo Alto is at the center of the tech universe and home to countless leading-edge private companies. What does effective synergy look like between the public and private sectors?
Well, there's a saying that's often used today that I really like, and it's that in the past we've often viewed government like a vending machine. You stick in $1 and you get $1's worth of services back. And there was no obligation on the person procuring the service. They basically paid taxes and they got the service. Well, it's the 21st century. It's 2015. This model can't continue. The complexity, the extent of the needs of government and communities are so great now that it's not just a one-sided equation. It never really has been, but it's really moving now away from one-sided to being a joint responsibility between community and government. And so never has there been so much need for a city entity to reach out to individuals and to private organizations to be collaborators and co-creators, to solve problems together. In fact, sometimes problems will be solved entirely in the private sector, just with the advice and the convening of the public sector. So the dynamic is very different. It makes it very interesting for me because I've come from the private sector and I'm still able to tap into that ecosystem. It's surprising how many private companies and individuals, when asked, are willing to step up. They really are. And probably what many cities don't do is just ask. There's a saying in the sales business is, how many salespeople actually ask for the sale? You might spend a long time trying to sell, but at some point you got to say, will you buy the product? In the public sector, reach out to your community and say, will you contribute? Will you be part of solving this problem? Now, I have the luxury. I'm in the heart and center of Silicon Valley, surrounded by tech companies who are of that mindset. They want to contribute. They want to partner with us. And so we see that partnership as absolutely key to the future of cities and the future of the city of Palo Alto. And I think it's up to city leaders and visionary city leaders to tap into it, because it's not just going to happen. It has to be made happen.
You set out to both deliver and utilize open data for the community. How did you tackle it?
We recognize, okay, we're going to move forward with open data. We need a platform for that. We need a place to put those data sets and have an API for stakeholders to consume that data. So, you think about that and you're like, okay, this is another big technology project. You got to do the requirements. You got to find a vendor. You got to deploy it. We're probably talking about a year. Not unreasonable in the public sector. And I said, we don't have a year. We got to move fast. And how can we move fast? So we adopted some lean methods. going through, the cycles of finding the vendor implementation, but doing it more quickly, doing it with as little overhead as possible. And we did it in 6 weeks. We went from start to deployment in 6 weeks. So we got our open data portal up pretty fast. And by the way, not at great cost. Another question I'm asked often by people is, well, of course Palo Alto can do that. You have plenty of money. No, this wasn't a cost thing. The platform we chose was just a few $1,000s. So this was not a massive financial overhead for us, but it was our approach and making it a priority. So once we convinced leaders of the benefit, and my team and my colleagues, once we got the platform up and we started to get data on it, immediately we started to see the value of it.
When it comes to cloud computing, many agencies are still on the fence. As a thought leader in the local gov tech world, what is your perspective on the cloud's role in local government?
Software as a service and cloud in general is probably one of the greatest things that's ever happened to government, because we're not particularly good at running data centers. We have talent, but we're not good at necessarily patching those servers, replacing the hardware when necessary, keeping the technology current, and cloud and software as a service really takes care of that. Should you be as a government, should you be running an exchange infrastructure for your email, where you need system admins and data center professionals, and you need rack space and all sorts of different technology, or should that just be a commodity that you basically subscribe to from the cloud? I'm going to say, I think the latter. I think we ought not to be in the email business. We ought to have other people do it, and that can be extended to hundreds of different applications.
With your paradigm-changing approach to implementing your data center, as well as holding a public apps challenge, how are you extending your cause beyond Silicon Valley?
There is this high expectation that we are creating new models for government and we're innovating in different ways. And part of that is absolutely true. And if we're doing that and others are looking to us, we ought to be sharing what we're doing. We ought to be creating best practices and saying, hey, this worked for us, you should try it too. So you've got to document that. You got to do the hard work of saying, the way we got our open data platform in 6 weeks was to do the following steps, and you can do it too. And so when we did our 5 or 6 month apps challenge, I personally committed to documenting how we did that, so that any city, any public agency in the world could run their own apps challenge and potentially get the value of community engagement and open data, bring the two things together. So that's what I was driven by, was this desire to share what we're doing and have others really benefit from it.
As provocative as he is inspiring, that was Jonathan Reichenthal, CIO for the City of Palo Alto. I'm Bert Lowry with Springbrook Software and Excella Company. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
Civic Leaders is a Springbrook Software Promnicast. Visit sprbrk.com for more. Syndication support is provided by emerging local government leaders. Visit elgl.org for more exclusive content. This series is produced and distributed by the Volsta Media Network. Be sure to check out other great shows, episodes, and more at volsta.com.